The morning sun streamed through the lace curtains in the Duggar household, painting golden patterns across the floor. It was quiet, almost reverently so. Too quiet for a home usually alive with the laughter of children and the buzz of life. Jessa Duggar sat on the edge of her bed, hands cradling her belly, as if still trying to feel what had been lost. A heartbeat that once danced joyfully in ultrasounds was now silent. It had started with hope, as it always did. The pregnancy test had shown 2 clear lines, and Jessa had cried with joy, with awe, with the quiet thrill of bringing new life into the world again. Ben, her husband, had swept her up in his arms, laughing through tears, already talking about baby names and tiny socks and late-night feedings. Another little one, he had whispered into her hair. Another blessing. And it had felt just like that, a blessing, a new chapter. But then came the doctor's visit. It was meant to be routine, just a checkup. Jessa had brought her older kids along, hoping to show them the baby's first movements on the screen. The little ones giggled in the waiting room, drawing hearts and stars on the pages of coloring books, while Jessa lay on the table, the cold gel on her stomach. The room had been filled with the familiar hum of machines, the rhythmic thumping she had heard with her other children. But this time, there was only silence. The technician's brows furrowed. She moved the wand, adjusted settings, bit her lip. Jessa knew, she knew before the words came. "I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat." 3 words, just 3, but they unraveled her world. That night, the Duggar home was a place of quiet tears. No big announcements were made, no social media posts with balloons or baby onesies. Instead, it was just family, Ben holding Jessa's hand, her siblings gathering in silent support, her parents whispering prayers into the air like desperate wishes. Jessa sat curled on the couch, her hand still instinctively resting on her belly. She looked up as her sister Joyanna walked in, her own eyes puffy, holding a small box wrapped in linen. "What's this?" Jessa asked softly. Joy sat beside her, her arms slipping around Jessa's shoulders. "When I lost Annabelle," Joy began, her voice catching on the name, "I wrote her a letter. Just everything I wished I could say to her. I thought, maybe you'd want to do the same." Jessa opened the box, eyes brimming. Inside was a bundle of blank paper, tied with twine and a pen with a small heart charm. She took a shaky breath. That night, in the quiet glow of a bedside lamp, Jessa wrote. Words poured out like rain. "My sweet baby, I never got to hold you. Never got to hear your cry or see your eyes. But you were loved. From the moment I knew you were there, you changed me. I dreamed of lullabies, bedtime stories, your first steps. Now I only dream of what might have been. You were real. You mattered. And you will never, ever be forgotten." The following Sunday, the Duggar family held a private service in the garden. No cameras, no crowds, just family. A small white rosebush was planted beneath the oak tree, where children often played and laughter echoed. Beneath it, Ben gently placed a tiny wooden box, carved with the words, "Heaven holds you now." Jessa couldn't speak, but her tears said everything. Michelle, her mother, hugged her long and tightly. "God doesn't waste pain," she whispered. "He will bring beauty even from this." Jessa didn't answer, but she nodded. Because even in her heartbreak, she believed that somehow, even this unbearable grief would one day give birth to grace. In the weeks that followed, Jessa found herself visiting the rosebush daily, sometimes with Ben, sometimes with her children, sometimes alone. One morning, her son Spurgeon walked up beside her, clutching a dandelion puff in his tiny hand. "Mommy," he said, looking up, "I think the baby's playing with Jesus." Jessa knelt down, tears in her eyes. "I think so too, sweetheart." He leaned in close and blew the dandelion, watching the seeds dance into the sky. "Then they're not gone," he said with childlike certainty. "They're just flying." And in that moment, Jessa smiled. It was the first smile in days, maybe weeks. It was small, but it was real. Months passed. Life slowly found its rhythm again. The pain didn't vanish, it never would, but it softened, no longer a sharp stab, but a quiet ache, a gentle missing. Jessa began to share her story, carefully, vulnerably. On a quiet evening, she sat in front of a camera, her face bare, raw with emotion. "I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about this," she began, "but I think it's important. I want other moms to know they're not alone, that their grief is real, that their baby mattered." She spoke of loss, of faith, of the loneliness of mourning someone no one else got to meet, but also of hope. The days blurred into each other, some filled with energy and purpose, others weighted down by grief that rolled in without warning. There were moments Jessa found herself staring at the high chair in the kitchen, imagining the baby that would never sit in it. Sometimes she'd wake from dreams of tiny cries and feel a phantom kick in her belly. The mind, she realized, has its own way of remembering. Ben stayed close through it all. He didn't always know what to say, but sometimes presence speaks louder than words. He would rub her back as she cried, whisper prayers as they fell asleep, or simply hold her hand in the stillness. Then came the letter. It arrived in the mail one rainy Tuesday, no return address. Inside was a single note written in soft, cursive handwriting. "I lost a baby once too. I never told anyone. Your bravery made me feel seen. Thank you for giving my grief a name." A pressed violet flower was tucked inside. Jessa cried for a long time after reading that. Not for herself this time, but for all the women carrying invisible sorrow. It struck her, maybe her story wasn't just a wound. Maybe it could be a window. She started writing more, not just for herself, but for others. Journal entries turned into blog posts. Thoughts evolved into devotionals. She wrote about grief, about God, about the ache of empty arms and the promise of eternity. And people listened. Mothers wrote to her from hospital rooms, from therapy couches, from bedrooms where baby clothes still hung untouched. Fathers reached out, saying they finally found the words to explain their sadness. Jessa wasn't just healing, she was helping others heal too. One evening, the family gathered for what would have been River's due date. Ben set up a few chairs beneath the oak tree, and the kids each held a balloon. Jessa carried a small candle. "I thought," she began, voice trembling, "that we could say something to River, out loud, whatever's in our hearts." The kids went first. "I love you," Spurgeon whispered, his balloon bobbing gently in the wind. "I hope you have toys in heaven," said Henry. "Maybe one day I can see you," Ivy added shyly. Ben turned to Jessa. "Do you want to go last?" She nodded and looked up into the sky, her candle flickering in the breeze. "River," she said softly, "you may not be in my arms, but you're in my soul. You'll always be a part of this family. We miss you, but we know you're whole and held, and that gives me peace." They released the balloons, their colors swirling together as they disappeared into the darkening sky. And for the first time in a long time, Jessa felt something more than grief. She felt gratitude. Gratitude for the short time she had, for the lessons River had given her about life, love, and letting go. Gratitude for a family that held her through the storm, for faith that kept her grounded when the winds howled hardest. Months later, the rosebush blossomed again. This time, a butterfly landed gently on one of its petals. Jessa watched it for a long time, thinking of her little one, somewhere unseen but never unfelt. She smiled through tears. Some heartbeats never fade. They simply move beyond our hearing. But they're always there, guiding us home.